Hi everyone, we from Group 4 and we're going to talk to you today about the partial pressure and the gas exchange across respiratory surface. Gas law and air composition. Gas molecules exert force on the surface with which they are in contact. This force is called pressure. In natural systems, gases are normally present as a mixture of different types of molecules. For example, the atmosphere consists of oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and other gaseous molecules. And these gases mixture exert a certain pressure referred to as atmospheric pressure. Partial pressure. It is a pressure of a single type of gas in a mixture of gases. For example, in the atmosphere, oxygen exerts a partial pressure and nitrogen exerts another partial pressure. The sum of the partial pressure of a gaseous mixture is known as total pressure. Dalton's law expresses the fact that the total pressure of a mixture of gases is equal to the sum of the partial pressure of the individual gases in the mixture. This equality arises from the fact that in an ideal gas, the molecules are so far apart that they do not interact with each other. A gas will move from an area where its partial pressure is higher to an area where its partial pressure is lower. The greater the partial pressure difference between the two areas, the more rapid the movement of gases. Solubility of gases in liquid. Henry's law describes the behavior of gases when they come into contact with a liquid, such as blood. Henry's law state that the concentration of gas in a liquid is directly proportional to the solubility and partial pressure of the gas. The greater the partial pressure of the gas, the greater the number of gas molecules that will dissolve in the liquid. The concentration of the gas in a liquid is also dependent on the solubility of the gas in the liquid. For example, although nitrogen is present in the atmosphere, very little nitrogen dissolves into the blood. Why? Because the solubility of nitrogen in blood is very low.
So now I'll be talking about external respiration. First of all, what is external respiration? It is the process of respiration or breathing where gases are exchanged between the lungs and the external environment of our body. It starts with inhalation, where we take in gas when we inhale, and then followed by pulmonary gas exchange. It takes place in the lungs between alveoli and the blood. It removes carbon dioxide from the blood and replenishes the blood's oxygen supply. Gas exchange occurs down the pressure gradient via a process known as diffusion. So as we see from this diagram, oxygenated blood is transported to the heart and deoxygenated blood is transported from the heart. And these are the organs that are involved in the gaseous exchange, such as bronchiole, alveoli, and small blood vessels in the lungs. Partial pressure is the pressure related to the gases concentration within the gas mixture in our lungs. Differences in the partial pressures between the gases in the alveoli and blood creates a pressure gradient across the respiratory membrane. Gases tend to move from an area of high concentration or high pressure to an area of low concentration or low pressure. The blood that has come from the tissues of the body to the alveoli is high in carbon dioxide. So when we zoom into our lungs, we can see what happens in the alveoli when gases exchange occurs. When we inhale, our alveoli is full of gases where oxygen level is higher than the oxygen level in the blood capillaries around the alveoli. Also, the carbon dioxide level in the blood capillaries is higher than that of the alveoli. So what will happen is, the oxygen in the alveoli will diffuse into the blood capillaries, while the carbon dioxide from the capillaries will diffuse into the alveoli. The carbon dioxide in this deoxygenated blood diffuses across the respiratory membrane into the alveoli to an area of low carbon dioxide concentration, and they are subsequently expired, which means exhaled from our body. In order for oxygen to be absorbed into the blood, it binds to hemoglobin, which is a compound that sits on our red blood cells. Oxygenated blood are bright red in color because they are rich in oxyhemoglobin, which is a product of oxygen binding with hemoglobin. Whereas for deoxygenated blood, it is dark red in color because it is lack of oxyhemoglobin.
Next is internal respiration. Internal respiration is the gas exchange that occurs at level of body tissue. Similar to external respiration, internal respiration also occurs at simple diffusion due to partial pressure gradient. However, the partial pressure gradient are opposite of those present at the respiratory membrane. This diagram shows the internal respiration where oxygen diffuses out of the capillary and into cells, whereas carbon dioxide diffuses out of the cells and into the capillary. So I will explain this diagram in detail. The partial pressure of oxygen in tissue is low, about 40 mmHg, because oxygen is continuously used for the cellular respiration. In contrast, the partial pressure of oxygen in the blood occurs about 100 mmHg. This creates a pressure gradient that causes oxygen to dissociate from hemoglobin, diffuse out of the blood, cross the interstitial space, and enter the tissue. Considering that cellular respiration continuously produces carbon dioxide, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is lower in the blood than in the tissue, causing carbon dioxide to diffuse out of the tissue, cross the interstitial fluid, and enter the blood. It is then carried back to the lungs, either bound to the hemoglobin, dissolved in the plasma, or in a converted form. By the time blood returns to the heart, the partial pressure of oxygen has returned about 40 mmHg, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide has returned to about 45 mmHg. The blood is then pumped back to the lung to be oxygenated once again during the external respiration. That is all from us. Thank you.